think it's important for us to just recognize if a client's complaining of headaches, or, maybe they're having some memory loss, maybe they have some ringing in their ears, stuff like that, that kind of lets us know that, hey, maybe they have something going on.
The Concussion Center proudly presents Talk-N-Headz, a podcast based on all things related to head injuries. This is not just a show about concussion. In this series, we take an in-depth look at the brain and its function specifically after there is trauma. Hosted by Brent Jones, Antonio Walden, and Dr. Robert Allen, Talk-N-Headz was created to give a realistic perspective to head injuries. So sit back, relax, and let us fill your head with brain knowledge.
All right, welcome back to another installment of Talk-N-Headz. You have Antonio with you here today. I leave for a week, and I guess Brent and Rob just frolic. You know what they say, when the cat's away, the mouse will play. So they're both out doing whatever they're doing today, and I'll catch up with them later on to make sure they're all in line. But we have another great guest with us on today, one of the most prevalent attorneys here in Atlanta, hailing in Peachtree Corners, off in the corner. You may see him at a couple events. Always has on a snazzy pattern blazer that I'm kind of jealous of, but I'll step my game up here sooner or later. Just a little bit about him. He graduated from Augusta back before they changed the name. I think he was actually there when they changed the name, but grew up here in Atlanta from Peachtree Corners, still lives there with his wife and his kids. He is the lead attorney of the Pendergrass Law firm. We are so fortunate to have with us today Attorney Phillip Pendergrass. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, thank you for coming on. Now, was I correct? Were you there in Augusta before the name change and after the name change?
Right before the name change. So I think that happened like a couple years.
Okay.
So now it's Augusta University. I always knew it as Augusta State. So
Gotcha. I was just going to ask if they gave you two different diplomas there.
Nope, still is Augusta State on the wall. So
gotcha. All right. I see all the dog paintings on the wall, so I'm gonna go out on a limb and assume you're a UGA fan.
Big UGA fan, and that's where I graduated law school from. But grew up as a UGA fan. My dad went there, and so it's in the blood for sure.
Gotcha. You have your replica ring yet, or no?
No, not yet.
I actually saw a couple of them. They're actually pretty nice.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, hey, we appreciate you coming on to the podcast here. We started this as a way of just getting a little bit more education around TBIs out, concussions, that kind of thing. So we know that you there at the firm are a believer in it and you utilize it in a lot of your cases. So we just want to have a conversation with you and see what brought you to that point. I always like to start off by asking all the attorneys that come on, what actually got you into law?
Didn't have like a calling or anything. Once I realized baseball wasn't going to go anywhere after shoulder surgery, it was kind of like, what am I going to do? My mom was a paralegal for a big firm in Atlanta. It still is. I was her only job. And so kind of grew up around law a little bit and, figured law school would be a good choice. My dad was a CPA and I knew I didn't want anything to do with taxes. So that was the legal route. And then, once I got into law school and, clerked for a judge and worked for a couple law firms, I found out very quickly I wanted to be a plaintiff's attorney.
Gotcha. So your dad's a CPA. You didn't want anything to do with taxes. So you just let somebody else handle all the taxes for the firm. You just say, as long as they don't come looking for me, we're fine.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I know every lawyer has had those cases. Of course, the cases that they're happy about, the cases that they enjoyed working on, but just as many cases as they're like, what in the world am I doing? Why do I keep putting myself through this? So what keeps you in law when you find those days and those cases that kind of try you?
Really, it's the connection with people. I get to connect with people from all different walks of life, all different current circumstances they're going through, and really being able to be someone they can depend on. really is, I feel like, has been a calling, kind of a purpose, since I've gotten into practice, and being able to make a difference, man. That, as much as it's selfless in making that difference, it's kind of selfish. Like I love being that guy for
Gotcha.
people. So that's really been, the thing that really keeps me going and not getting burned out is really being able to help people and impact their life.
Yeah, that's the big thing I found with anything. As long as you can find something bigger than yourself, it'll keep
Yeah.
you pushing in there. Gotcha. Um, so I know here recently, and especially in Atlanta, head injuries, TBIs, concussions, those kind of things have moved a little bit ahead to the, if you will, the forefront of most personal injury cases. Um, in your firm, what have you seen driving that, or what do you think is the main reasoning behind that?
I think the main reason is really just the education, and then the medical providers like y'all, um, having the ability to test and diagnose these injuries. I don't think,
Hmm.
you know, there's just more head injuries now than there was 10 or 15 years ago. I just think we're able, to recognize them, and treat them, as before, it was just kind of, I think they got swept under the rug and didn't get as much attention.
Gotcha, gotcha. And going back to UGA, I think a lot of football and a lot of sports talk had some revelations to do with that as well too. I know it's been a lot of talk about that in sports, and then somebody finally had the revelation that, oh, this might work in a car injury as well too. I mean, as far as the impacts and what happens to the brain, that kind of thing. But unfortunately, a lot of times when you're in a car, you don't have a helmet on, or you probably shouldn't have a helmet on. If you
Right.
do, that's probably why you had the accident. Um, but I think as long as we keep making those correlations there and being open-minded to how those two worlds could overlap, it'll keep pushing things forward as well too. I know you probably had some pushback when it comes to trial and insurance companies, um, because of that, I guess, differentiation they try to make between sports and car accidents. But how have you guys at the firm handled that?
We're a litigation firm, so if they want to play those games,
Mhm.
it's not a serious injury. At the forefront of a case, we're happy to file suit.
Hmm.
Um, and we have a couple cases right now, diagnosed concussion cases, and State Farm and Allstate, they don't think that's that serious. They don't think that's entitled to pain and suffering. And I think it's a lot of times more serious than a broken bone. Some of these head injuries, and they vary in degrees. So I guess that's the challenge we have on our side is really how much is a person's life impacted by this, and is it permanent versus is this something that's going to go away in a few weeks?
Yeah. So now, you use the term litigation firm. For those who are listening that may not be, I guess, familiar with that term, what does that actually mean?
So litigation means once a lawsuit's filed. So a lot of cases, luckily, can get resolved by sending a demand letter to the insurance company and reaching a settlement with the insurance adjusters. Sometimes they're not very reasonable, and you have no other choice but to file a lawsuit against the person who hit you, and then you kind of, both sides can dive in deeper into the case and figure things out, and likely get it done before trial.
Gotcha. So the fact that you are designated and labeled as a litigation firm, how does that help you in a case?
It helps us just because, if someone comes to us from the get-go, they're going to have us from, the date of their accident through trial, if it reaches
Hmm.
that point, as opposed to getting passed around between different attorneys.
Yeah.
So, and especially in the realm of a head injury case, kind of getting to know someone is paramount to understanding their head injury, especially if it's a bad one.
Hmm.
So kind of understanding not only their baseline currently, but kind of through friends and family, their baseline before, allows us to kind of piece everything together, and get an accurate picture of how their life's been impacted.
Yeah, and that's what I tell a lot of people is, in an ideal world, we will have a baseline on every person, which means we'll be able to test people with these same testings when they're quote unquote normal before an accident. And
Mhm.
then after an accident, we can absolutely see what's going on. But in the world we live in, we don't know who's going to have an accident. if I did have that power, I probably would use it to predict lottery numbers instead of accidents.
Yeah.
But the way that we're able to, as you said, diagnose it is we can compare it to what's called normative data. We know what a person who has this type of lifestyle should look like through years of data that's been gathered. And we can compare that to your testings today. But it's essential, like you said, to establish that pre-accident baseline by talking to their friends and families, looking at videos of them before the accident, that kind of thing, how their dispositions and that kind of thing before the accident. And that kind of helps paint a picture of, like you said, how they've been impacted. I also would imagine that being a litigation firm would benefit the client as when you do file that demand letter, insurance companies know, okay, they'll go to trial. So it will behoove us to try to get this settled before then.
Yeah,
so,
sometimes I think that may matter, but I don't know, man. Sometimes they just play games.
Sometimes you just find somebody who likes to argue, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, as far as that goes, I know we have, like I said, a little pushback when it comes to certain insurance companies, that kind of thing. What do you see from your side that can keep head injuries or TBIs in the forefront when it comes to personal injury cases? Or do you think it's going to cool off here at some point in time?
I don't think it's going to cool off just because that just kind of the nature of the business. These injuries are happening. I don't think anything's really going to be able to prevent us from seeing head injuries. Just you're not in a harness. You don't have a helmet on, like you said. You get in accidents. The acceleration, deceleration of your skull. We're gonna have concussions. There's no way around it.
Right. So, I guess on the legal side, the goal would be just to keep our foot on the pedal, keep it down, make sure that if there is a TBI or head injury, which not every case has a TBI or head injury, but if it's there, to make sure it's properly documented, make sure we bring it up in a legal and professional way so that it is considered like everything else. And I guess on the provider side is to keep the research going, keep the findings coming in and consistent. I know I just recently learned that DTI, which has been another hot term that's been going around, should only be ordered at the very earliest 6 months after the accident, because anything before then, it likely won't show anything too detrimental. But I know a lot of attorneys who they've just skipped right past the MRI and just start ordering the DTI the day after the accident. And that can be a waste of the client's money in the case and a waste of time. So efficiency is another big key component I would imagine would be when running a personal injury case. Absolutely.
And I mean, really, we're not doctors on this side. There's some things we can do to educate ourselves, but we defer to you guys and the specialist on it. But I think it's important for us to just recognize if a client's complaining of headaches, or, maybe they're having some memory loss, maybe they have some ringing in their ears, stuff like that kind of lets us know that, hey, maybe they have something going on. It's important to make sure we get them into, the right course of treatment and start that course of treatment right away. So it's not only so they get better, but also so we document that injury from the get-go.
Yeah. You mentioned another big word in this field, education. So what type of education would you like to see around head injuries, that kind of thing, that you think would be beneficial for you or maybe your staff or something like that?
I think just presentations on it, kind of what to look for. It'd be great for our staff. We kind of do that internally. So our staff members know kind of what to listen for, what to look out for. And then we also know through looking at medical records. But again, that's just because we've done a bunch of it. Unfortunately, I think a lot of times these injuries get missed because people aren't reading the medical records and people aren't kind of training their staff on, hey, what to look for, especially the case managers. I mean, they're the ones who have more contact with the clients right at the start of the case. And, they need to be aware of these things. Like maybe the client's irritable, not because of that's who they are. Maybe they have some issues going on, and that's something that we need to explore and really determine.
Gotcha. So I'll take that opportunity to plug. We have upcoming here in the next month or so a head injury certification that we've started. Both our neurologist and our clinical director lead it, and it does just that. It just gives real world relevant case study, shows how to identify someone who may have a TBI or head injury, and then what proper treatment should look like. So we normally run it on a Saturday. It's about an hour and a half. So be on the lookout for that. Emails going out for attendees, that kind of thing. We gear it toward case managers and paralegals. If attorneys want to attend, we charge them. No, everybody's welcome, but we do gear it toward paralegals and case managers. Just like you said, to make sure that when you get that initial phone call, if they're slurring words or if you have to repeat the same thing 3 or 4 times, they're having a hard time remembering something simple, you may want to get them over for something like that. But like you said, education is the key. We're also reaching out to a couple other entities here in Atlanta, a couple of associations to try to get some trainings in place with them, maybe even offer some CLEs, because I don't think there are too many TBI presentations going forward right now that have CLEs attached with them, or just TBI presentations, period. So just getting that education out there. But of course, like, you have my cell number. If you need anything, you can call me. I'm not going to give out my cell number on the podcast because, once again, I don't know who's listening. And like you said, I don't have a CPA either. So if the IRS is listening, I don't need them to have my direct contact number. But yeah, that's really big, is the educational piece around it. And I think that here in Atlanta, a lot of attorneys are catching on to that and actually seeking it out a little bit more. Have you seen, or do you feel like a properly documented and treated TBI adds value to the case?
Oh, 100%. We had one about a month ago. We had sent it off. He had about $7,000, or actually like $6,500 in medical bills. Mm-hmm. And he didn't know he had a TBI, but he did complain that, he had ringing in his ear. Mm-hmm. So he had diagnosed with tinnitus. So that kind of, was a light bulb for me. Like, maybe we need to get you into a specialist and kind of see if you have a traumatic brain injury. And he went in, had a DTI, and the scan came back positive. We then resubmitted the demand with the findings from the DTI, and they tendered their $100,000 policy limit. So that was one of those where, just the education I had, luckily, through doing this and through presentations, I kind of recognized the tinnitus was a potential brain issue, and it turned out it was. So the client was very happy about that, and is doing better with some of the other therapy treatment he's had since.
Nice. Yeah, another I guess flag would be someone with whiplash. Mm-hmm. A lot of attorneys don't recognize that whiplash may be a cause of a TBI, even at a low rate of speed, just the nature of how you get whiplash. So yeah, that was good that you were able to recognize that, because some people just without ringing in the ears and send them to ENT and let it go that route.
Yeah, and they would have settled his case for $10,000, and he would have been none the wiser. So. Exactly. So good job for you, sir. Now I have to ask you, so what's coming up for you guys there at the firm? Any new improvements or additions, or? Yeah, we're growing like crazy. Just added another attorney, Cameron Roberts. She's great. She's going to start here in the next week or so. So we're really excited to have her, and then looking for a paralegal and a legal assistant position currently. So we're keeping the pedal to the metal over here.
Gotcha. So yeah, I guess, Peachtree Corners is a hot part of town. It's growing. Last time I was over, there's like 7 or 8 restaurants I didn't even recognize, but need to get back over there to try. So we have to grab lunch here sometime soon.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, no, it's growing, and I think kind of our results are are proving our worth, and we're having more attorneys refer us cases, and then more people call us randomly through searching and doing their research. So that's kind of helped us, and we've we handle cases all over the state. So
All right. Well, I mean, it's obvious you have great taste. You're a Dogs fan and a Braves fan. So I can't let you off this podcast without getting a prediction from you. Will one or both repeat this year?
I think it's going to be tough on both of them. But if I had to put my money on one or the other to repeat, I'd put it on the Dogs.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't paid a whole lot of attention to the Braves, but I know they've had some sputters in the beginning here.
Yeah, hitting needs to get going. Talented lineup, I think they will. But man, there's some talented teams out there this year, just stacked. So I think it'll be tough for them to repeat again.
Gotcha. And I think we got the Dog summer game coming up in a couple weeks.
The spring game was in April, so.
Oh, I missed it.
Weird. Yeah, it's a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
They're looking good. So.
Gotcha.
Got that first game against Oregon coming up in the fall.
Yeah. I don't think they lost too much on their side, did they?
On the offensive side, not too much.
I know we lost a receiver.
Lost a lot on defense, but
yeah,
pretty full.
Yeah, I hope we can fill those holes on defense, because that was a little bit of a weak point last year too. So we'll see. Is there anything else you want to leave us with before we head out?
Nope. I think that's about it. I think what you guys are doing, the education side, is huge for all of us, and I know we appreciate it, and hope to get more of it.
Well, hey, I appreciate you taking a couple moments out with us today to impart those nuggets that you did drop on us. You want to shout out your social media? I know you're not. they got you on TikTok, but you want to shout out your social media so people know where to find you? Yeah,
we're at Instagram. It's Pendergrass Law. I don't even know what it is on TikTok. And maybe Pendergrass Law on TikTok too.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm not the one in charge of all that. So.
Well, he's not in charge, but he's dancing on TikTok. So if you want to see Attorney Pendergrass dance, go check out his TikTok. You guys know where to find us. We're the Concussion Center on all of your social media and your website. We got some things coming down the pipeline we'll be announcing here soon. So stay tuned, and we'll be back with another episode of Talk-N-Headz before you know it. And until we talk next time, remember to watch out for your head.
Thank you for listening to Talk-N-Headz. This podcast has been brought to you by the Concussion Center. We appreciate the opportunity to fill your brain with some new information regarding head injuries. If you have any additional topics you would like us to cover, please reach out to us on our various social media platforms at the Concussion Center, or hit us up on our website at concussionctr.com.